slate of activities for orientation for the fall 2020 academic year, or I should say for our fall semester. We do have activities going on this week, but this is our way of kicking things off. So we're glad to have you here. Before we get too far, I'd like to know who's joining us today and where all of you are joining us. So we've got a quick poll here at bit.ly /3HK8630. And we just like to know if you're new to UF, what degree program or what degree type you're enrolled in, and where you're tuning in from today. So if you can visit the link and then let us know some of your background information, we'd like to get to know you a little bit. So in kicking things off, I'd also like to thank all of our partners who make GradStart and all of our orientation activities such a comprehensive set of resources for all of you to get started here in the fall semester. I'd like to thank the International Center, Counseling and Wellness Center, our Orientation Planning Committee, our resource fair organizations, and our information session presenters throughout the past week. Just to sort of summarize the materials that are available to you from the graduate school and some of the information that we've been sharing over the course of the last week and will continue on through this week. We've put together two types of material. We have live events and recordings, which consist of information sessions, orientation sessions, and resource fairs. And we also have, so we have those live events that we've put together over the last week. As I said, they'll be going on this week. We will have them also posted in GradStart, just in case you haven't had a chance to attend those sessions, or if there's been a schedule conflict, or if you'd like to go back at all to make sure you have a chance to look at that material. In the Canvas course as well, we've put together some recordings and additional content that we haven't had in our live sessions. And that includes a larger summary about expectations here in graduate school, as well as some faculty and student perspective as well. So I hope you take a chance both this week as well as on into the future to take a look at that material as well. It will be available on through the fall semester. So the last component of our live events that I wanted to highlight is our resource fairs. We haven't talked so much about those just yet, but they are thematically organized by topic, and we'll have a resource fair scheduled each day of the week this week. So we'll start today with some wellness resources that'll be available. On Tuesday and Thursday, we will have general student resources. On Wednesday, we'll have research, language, and technology resources. And on Friday, we'll have resources and organizations connected to graduate student involvement. And these resource fairs we put together, they're meant to highlight organizations where you might have a 30-minute, they have a 30-minute spotlight, and you have a chance to have an informal Q&A. We won't be recording these. They are meant to be a chance really to just get to know people and connect as quickly and easily as possible without sort of formality of a webinar or workshop. So before we get too far, I'd also like to take a look at who's joining us today. So let me see if I can pull up our survey and see who's here. All right, let's see. So I will change my share. And it looks like we have a fair number of students who are new to UF this morning. So we're glad to have you here. We're glad you're joining the Gator Nation, that you're new to campus. And we hope these resources are useful for you. It looks like we have more PhD students than master's students joining us this morning. That's good to know. It's good to have a good mix of master's and PhD students at orientation. We know that master's and PhD students make up all of our graduate student population, we typically have more master's students than PhD students here at UF currently enrolled. It's good to see that we have about an even split this morning. And it looks like in our word cloud here, which is slightly small, we've got students joining us from Michigan, Germany, Florida, Egypt, Illinois, China, Miami, Orlando, Altamonte, Belgium. And these are just a few of the places that we have students joining us this morning. So I'm really glad to know that we have students joining us from all across Florida, as well as all across the world. We're glad to have you here. So if I switch back to our slides here, I don't want to take up too much time talking about the rest of GradStart. I'd like to turn our presentation over to the first of our speakers. So with us this morning, we have Dr. Paul Duncan, who's the Senior Associate Dean here in the Graduate School. And I will let him take control of the slides and talk to you all in just a minute.
Good morning, folks. I hope this is working. I have great faith in Matt and in the technology. It is my great pleasure. It's annually my great pleasure to welcome new graduate students to the University of Florida. That welcome is extended on behalf, personally, of course, and the graduate school as an organization, and the Dean of the Graduate School, Dr. Henry Frierson. It's not the first time you will hear the words welcome, but I hope you will recognize that they are genuine and that the graduate school is delighted that you have chosen the University of Florida to come and pursue this component of your education. I'm going to spend a little bit of time this morning telling you how graduate education is organized and delivered at the University of Florida, some unsolicited advice on how to manage those activities, and then I am going to turn both the electronic microphone and the control of the slides over to our guest speaker.
So Dr. Duncan, before you advance, can I have you maximize your slides with the present feature in the upper right-hand corner? Should be next to comments in the upper right-hand corner. A little lower, I think. There should be a present button.
There is not a present button that
a little lower down.
Sign in, simplified route.
It should be right above dictate, actually.
Well, it was hidden. Did I succeed?
Yes, it looks great.
Thank you, Matt. So let's talk for a minute about the University of Florida. Although I'm sure you all know that you applied to and have been admitted to and are going to start your degree programs at a place that is large by any literally worldwide standards for the nature of universities. We have between 55 and 60,000 students at any given moment at the University of Florida, and about 20% of them, 12,000 at the moment, are graduate students. This places UF among the 10 largest universities and graduate endeavor universities in the United States and probably worldwide. The graduate programs are divided among 16 quite separate colleges, and we offer 292 majors in our degree programs. So, I'm not going to, there's no test here. You don't need to think about all of these units, except to understand that this is a very large place. It's very complicated, and it offers an extraordinarily wide diversity of degree programs. In addition to the students that I just described, we've got 6,000 faculty members, and a subset of those, in a minute I'll tell you, are graduate faculty members. Last year, we granted 650 doctoral degrees and almost 3,700 master's degrees. Again, these are among the largest cohorts of any universities in the United States doing graduate education. And these programs are extraordinarily diverse. They stretch across these 6,000 total faculty, half of whom are members of the graduate faculty. We have 98 academic departments that offer graduate degree programs and 100 centers and institutes focused on very specific subsets of activity. And last year, the university brought in $900 million in research funding. And I point that out because especially those of you who are in PhD programs, maybe some of those of you who are in master's degree programs, will be funded or supported or work with some of the grants and projects that are associated with that funding. So the linkage between graduate education and research at a university like this is a very, very close connection. The University of Florida stretches across the entire state of Florida by definition. Martha may talk about this in a few minutes, but we have offices in every county in the state as part of our extension mission. We get grant funding that connects us in grant projects to 130 countries. As mentioned, we do $900 million in research activity, and that $900 million is expended on almost 600 projects that have an international focus. We have a wide range of graduate students in terms of their characteristics. We continue to work at being more diverse, not so much in the sense of having a larger number of categories, but in the sense of increasing the representation in some of those categories that we feel are underrepresented. But nonetheless, we have, out of those 12,000 odd graduate students, fewer than half of them are white. 3,500 are international students. We have 1,400 Hispanic students, 600 Asians, almost 700 African Americans, a wide diversity of graduate students in the population. The key characteristic that I want to emphasize to you this morning, and I'm going to start clicking through these slides more quickly now, is that the graduate education at the University of Florida is highly decentralized. That is, the graduate programs are responsible for delivering the graduate degrees. The graduate school only concerns itself with very general requirements and with supporting our graduate students. We support our graduate students financially with significant graduate school funding that goes to the colleges and then the departments and ultimately to the students. But we don't mess around in the actual content of the degree programs or in specific degree requirements. Our job at the graduate school is to uphold general standards that apply across the entire university. We evaluate and we oversee and we verify all degree requirements. It will be the dean of the graduate school ultimately that signs the diploma you will get at the end of your program. But it's your graduate program in the middle of this slide that provides the guidelines for satisfactory progress, that identifies the coursework and other requirements that you have to complete, provides you with all of the detailed degree information, and provides you with advice. And you, as the graduate student, are responsible for taking control of your own graduate degree program. There is no point in me emphasizing this more strongly. If you fail to meet a deadline, if you fail to accomplish a particular requirement, if you fail to do any other necessary step in your graduate education, in the final analysis, you and only you will be held responsible for that fact. On the other hand, this gives you great room to maneuver in your graduate program to seek advice necessary and to accomplish the graduate degree program that will meet your needs most effectively. The graduate school is a relatively small and not a terribly bureaucratic or complicated entity. We have 7 major units in the graduate school. 4 of them are associated with graduate education across the board at the University of Florida. 3 of them are much more closely assigned activities and efforts regarding graduate students themselves. This include our International Outreach Office, a series of diversity initiatives and professional development activities that will be available to you and offered by the graduate school throughout the time that you are here. I can't strongly urge that you pay attention to that series of professional development activities. They're generally labeled Thrive, and we will send emails providing you with opportunities to sign up for a wide range of initiatives. In the blue dots on this graphic, you'll see administration, data management, our editorial office that will help with your thesis or dissertation when the time comes, and the graduate school records office. The graduate school records office retains all information about your degree program and ultimately will certify that you have met the requirements for your degree before it can be granted. In your graduate degree program, your department, if you will, there will be a department chair who is important to you, a graduate coordinator who is more important to you, and a graduate staff person who is the most important to you. These 3 people you should identify and get to know if you don't already. They will be critical to activities throughout your graduate degree program. Specific to your individual plan of study, you will have an advisor, and most of you will have a supervisory committee. In a few cases of master's degrees that are almost entirely made up of courses, that supervisory committee may be a committee of 1 who is the program director. But generally speaking, you will have a supervisory committee to advise you. All PhD programs are also expected to create something called an individual development plan. Martha will talk a little bit more about that later, but it is a program of study that helps to guide your activities. Although things are very strange in this COVID environment, your peers, your graduate student colleagues are a critical part of your graduate education. You're going to have to get to know them electronically for a while, certainly for this semester, probably next semester, but we hope over the course of your degree program that things will become a little more normalized and you will have more opportunities for the personal contact that is essential to graduate education. I mentioned that things are a little strange. The understatement of the century, I suspect, but the COVID-19 pandemic impacts the University of Florida like all other institutions. And I can only urge in strong terms that you get to know the rules and the expectations that are in place to guide us through this extraordinary crisis. We really do expect you to go to the necessary websites. These have been put together by the epidemiologists and medical experts associated with our medical school and our College of Public Health to understand those expectations and pay attention to them and to follow them. We have an opportunity to deliver graduate education effectively, even in the current context, but it will depend on people being respectful of each other and each other's needs. The main University of Florida program to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic is called Screen, Test, and Protect. It has its own website, its own set of expectations, and I urge you to go there and to learn about it. Look for opportunities to connect virtually. Make sure you stay at safe physical distances and make sure you mask up all the time that you possibly can. Masks are absolutely required for indoor environments and urged basically all the time. We will be taking care of physical office spaces on campus, and we certainly expect students to participate in that, especially those of you who will be physically on campus to do labs or to teach labs or otherwise participate in our programs. This link at the bottom of the screen here is fundamental, and it will change literally as necessary to adapt to circumstances as they exist. Again, before I quit, I want to say welcome. I want to tell you that you are entering a phase of your life that is about as exciting and as fun and as interesting and as memorable as one could expect. Those of you who only hear my voice and don't see my face may not understand. Those of you who see my face, no doubt, can tell that I'm a very old man. I did my graduate work 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago. But I remember it vividly. The connections that I established during my graduate education, the professors that I met, continue to be a part of my life in ways that are very, very important to me. That will apply to you as well. So good luck, welcome. I'm delighted that you're here. And now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Martha Monroe. Martha is a full professor here at the University of Florida. She did her graduate work at the University of Michigan, a distinguished institution, certainly one that the University of Florida compares itself to on a routine basis. Dr. Monroe is a prolific author of 4 or 5 books, 75 peer-reviewed publications. She has mentored students across multiple departments. She is the winner of a doctoral mentoring award that is offered by the graduate school. She is an outstanding teacher in the graduate context, and she's here to share with you some ideas. Martha, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here now to hand this over to you, but welcome, and I'm certain that our students look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. That's marvelous. More of an introduction than I was anticipating, but thank you very much. And indeed, it's a great honor to be here today. Thank you for inviting me, and welcome to the rest of you who are starting graduate school here at the University of Florida. As Dr. Duncan mentioned, I also look back on my time as a graduate student with great fondness. And so you are starting a new phase of your life, which I think when it's over, you will also appreciate. You'll have new friends, you'll have new skills, and you're starting on a new phase of your career, which is just very exciting. What I'd like to do first is ask you to go to another URL, which is here, and I think Matt is going to stick it into the chat box for me. This is another Qualtrics survey that will ask you 2 questions, and feel free to type in a few words that answer them. The first question is, what are you excited about? What are you thinking about that gets you excited? The second question is, what worries you? What are you concerned about? And we'll show a word cloud if the technology works in my favor that will enable you to see what everybody else is thinking too. If this were in a room on campus, I would have you turn to your neighbor and chat. Well, we're going to do that electronically. So I will share the word cloud screen, I think, and hit refresh every now and then to see what you're saying. Oh, good, you're saying things. Thank you. And that'll keep coming in. So I remember when I became a graduate student, I quit a job where I was making money. And it was a little nerve wracking to think that I'm going to go to this place where I'm not making as much money. And there's just this promise that it will get better in time. And I probably felt like everybody else here was smarter than I was. So if you're nervous, it's okay. Oh, I don't think you should be nervous about failing though, because, oh, wow, here's a whole bunch of people. I'll just finish my second thought there. The fact that you were admitted means that you're not a failure and you're not likely to fail. It may not be easy, it may take some work, but I wouldn't be nervous about failing. Um, so some of the other things that you're excited about, here we go. Meeting new people, doing research. Yay. Finding out what we don't know yet, being on the edge, thinking about colleagues. Um, some of you are excited about teaching. You're going to be a teaching assistant in your classes, and that is just fantastic. So some of the things that you're nervous about, how to make friends when you can't meet them in person. Are these classes going to work from a distance? Yeah, we're all nervous about this. You're in good company. These are the sorts of things we're all thinking about. Um, and we're doing our very best to make sure that your experience is as good as it can be. We don't want anything to be shortchanged just because you're not physically present. And thank goodness we have the internet and Zoom to do as well as we can. If this virus happened even 10 years ago, we wouldn't have the technology that we have today. So I think we're going to make it. It's going to be different, but we're going to make it. So thanks. I will head back to the PowerPoint and continue, I believe. So part of doing that word cloud was for you to see that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who have very similar expectations, experiences, things to be excited about, and things to be worried about that you do. As Dr. Duncan mentioned, this is a huge campus with tremendous resources. Pretty much anything you could imagine you want is probably available here. And if you're not here, then it will be available online. um, for example, our library system is great. There are a huge number of resources there, and there's an interlibrary loan system so you can get what you want if we don't happen to have it. Matt already mentioned the Counseling and Wellness Center, which is a good resource if you need that too. We have writing programs, we have recreational programs. You can borrow a tent and go backpacking. One of the best kept secrets is the Arts and Crafts Center at the basement of the Union, which will be open on some modified schedule. You can get your hands muddy and clay and make a pot if you would like to, if you're here on campus. In large part, being a graduate student is a singular opportunity. You take your classes as an individual, you write your own thesis or dissertation by yourself. But there's a whole lot of people here in the same boat. And so you're not alone, and there's resources to make this work. One thing about being a graduate student, though, is that you're entering a very elite group of people. Only 13% of the folks in the United States have a graduate degree. I'm sure it's similar in some other countries, and it's probably that's a bigger number than other countries. So this is a big deal. You really are special. And coming here and starting a graduate program is a marvelous thing. You're in good company. There's other people in the same shoes. And there's a safety net at this university so that if you get out on the edge and need help, we've got you covered. So just by introduction, I think you're in a good space. This is going to be a great adventure. As Dr. Duncan mentioned, I have had the opportunity to advise a large number of students, not nearly people in every one of the, what was it, 292 programs and majors on campus. So I've tried to make some generic remarks that would be beneficial to lots of different students. Um, they may not fit everybody to a T, but in general. And some of them are similar to what Dr. Duncan said. So that's great. We're on the same page. The first is writing is really important. If you plan to write a blog, if you write a menu, if you write a policy brief, if you write a peer-reviewed publication, you are using your writing skills to be clear, coherent, and helpful. Writing is how we judge each other. Perhaps we shouldn't do that, but it is one of the only tools we have to figure out what people know and how competent they are. So getting to be a better writer is only going to help you in the long run. Writing, when I write something, it it helps me know what I know, and it pushes me to the edge of what I don't know. And that's where I say, "Oh, I need to say that in this paper. Maybe I better find out more about what other people have said." And so then I go investigate, or I use the data I've collected to pull it into this paper. And so writing is helpful to know what we know and to share with other people what we know. And if we do a good job of writing, the document itself is an educational enterprise. We teach other people through our writing. We don't just skip to the soundbite and the very end of the story, because a, a well written publication walks people through the process of what is the problem, how did I go about solving it, what did I learn, and leads them to the same conclusion that you arrived at. They need to do the work of thinking through the process of this discovery. You can't just tell them and assume that they're going to figure it out. So we use our writing to teach. If you choose to publish what you've written, then that becomes entered into the literature after a peer review process. So you'll be asking other people to review your material and make sure that it's up to speed and in good shape so that it can be accepted into the literature. So that's another way we write and use our materials. It's not just because this is sort of a publish or perish sort of institution that we care so much about writing. It's really a good thing for everybody to get better at. How do you do that, you might be asking? Well, one thing is to read, and not just read for content, but read for the writing style, the writing structure. How did they go about saying what they needed to say? You can get that out of reading the sorts of things that you're likely to write. You can develop a system to critique other people's writing. Maybe your lab group will get together and say, "Hey, I'd like some feedback on this draft. Will you read what I've written and tell me what you really think?" It would help if you actually steered that reviewer with some questions. "I'm nervous about whether or not I've done X. Will you tell me?" And give each other some feedback so that you can get better. If you're interested, you could ask your advisor if they are getting manuscripts to review from journals before they get printed. And you could get on the list to critique those as well. Maybe not right away, but maybe in time. And that is a fantastic way to, to not only offer advice in a kindly way to somebody that you don't even know, but also to figure out what are some common mistakes, how can they be better, what would make somebody else's paper better. And the third thing, of course, is practicing. The more you write, the more you learn. And this is practicing not in the way you might have written as an undergraduate student, where you write it, you're done with it, you turn it in, you get a grade, but writing iteratively. When you write something, you give it to somebody else and you say, give me some feedback. Tell me if this is clear. And then you expect you will rewrite it. Most of my students get comments from me at least 3 times on every chapter because it takes time to think about the structure, then think about the organization, then think about the individual sentences. Are they powerful enough? Is this the right word to use? It takes time, and over and over again, which if you're not ready for, that's the first thing to think about. Somebody's going to tell me to rewrite this, and that's okay. That's how we work. My second comment has to do with finding a support system and finding other people. And as already happened in the chat box, yeah, it's not going to be so easy when you're sitting 6 feet apart or in a virtual classroom, but people are out there. There's going to be ways to find them and engage with them. Just a little bit more challenging. So I encourage you to get involved. There are student clubs in every department and also interdepartmentally on campus. That's one way to find people who probably care about similar things to you than you. And so find a club, join the club, say, hey, how are we going to meet online, get a Zoom connection? That's how people are working right now. So you just meet them on the screen. Faculty have a lot of different kinds of projects going on, not only your research activity, but other things that might not involve an assistantship. They just might be projects that they're working on. You can choose to work on those projects, get to know your faculty a little better. Also, you're going to have a committee of faculty. So it's not just one person that you're stuck with forever. You could get to know other faculty on your committee and other faculty in your department, so that you can volunteer and put yourself out there. Every profession that I know of has a professional association, which networks people together and advances the field. I suspect that every professional association is eager to have student members. I also suspect that their annual conference is virtual this year, which makes it a whole lot cheaper to attend. You don't have to fly somewhere. You don't have to stay in a hotel. You can eat your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich, not theirs. So this is the right time to join your professional association and become engaged as a professional. They're always looking for students to enliven their group, their meeting. They might have committees that you could join, which could be judging posters or reviewing abstracts for their conference or creating a policy brief to position themselves in some sort of advocacy role or whatever it is. There are also student chapters of professional associations, and many of them are here on campus. So use your connections, join a student chapter, meet those people, and figure out how you can work together. Maybe there's a task you can do for the profession that would even result in some data collection and a presentation at the next conference. There's all sorts of opportunities available to you. And finally, as Dr. Duncan mentioned, this university is a land grant institution, which means we have an extension program that has a University of Florida presence in every single county in the state of Florida. Extension is also in every county of the United States. And many departments also have additional outreach opportunities with the Gainesville community or with any community that they want to work with. So there's ways to get off this campus, virtually, of course, and engage with other people. Graduate school is more than coursework. It's more than a thesis. It's more than a dissertation. It's being engaged with all sorts of people and projects to help make a difference. And you can do that as a student, even through Zoom. Number 3, I like to think of this as asking what you need. Dr. Duncan already introduced the individual development plan. before you can ask for what you need to know what you want. And that's a process of making this plan. I think that some units may have specialized their individual development plan. So get the one in your own program and make sure that's what you should be working with. It'll start with the process of doing a self-assessment, figuring out what you know and what you want to learn. And then it involves this matrix of identifying specific skills and experiences that you want in each of the semesters that you're here. I encourage you to fill this out and then use it. Come back to it on an annual basis, update it, see where you need to move and what you need to do. I also think that once you fill this out, you should schedule some time to meet with your advisor and say, here's what I want. Here's where I'd like to go. How can you help me? Is this possible to do while I'm here? Or should I tweak this a little bit and change my expectation and see what they say? That's what it's used for. So the more you can um, know what you want, that'll help you get what you need. So that's my recommendation. Create a plan. Once you have your plan in mind, you can also use classes and class assignments to move forward with your plan. There will always be assignments. Sometimes they'll be very specific, sometimes they'll be very generic. If you can use your goals to meet those assignments, then you're achieving your goals through your classes. And that's a great opportunity. It'll help you think about the skills you want, put yourself in a position to get them, and develop them. And then I also think you need to listen also. Just because you want it and just because you ask for it may not mean you're going to get it. And so use the advice from your advisor, from your peers, from other faculty to tweak your plan or figure out how you can get what you want in a slightly different way. And that's good. That'll be fine. You may not be expecting me to say you should learn from your mistakes because you're not planning to make any mistakes. I think that the process of doing research and the process of being a graduate student puts you at the edge of what you know, the edge of what the field knows. We may not always know what the next step should be. Being able to have the ability to take that next step means to accept the possibility that it might not be the right step. You might have to turn around and come back and try another way. That's the process of learning, and that's what you're here for. And so in the world of ecosystem management, we actually have a name for this, and it's called adaptive management. Probably the engineers call it something like that too. But they're simply recognizing that we don't know everything. And if we're going to do any kind of ecosystem management, we're just going to try a small amount, a test run. And at the same time, we're going to set up monitoring systems so that we're watching what's going to happen and and reflecting on whether or not the right things happen. So that means we not only try something new, but we think about what are the indicators of success going to be? What do I need to see to know that that was the right thing? And if I see something else, what are the indicators that will tell me how to fix it? So that's a tremendous opportunity. If you can think about adaptive management as a way of learning, that's what grad school is about. Trying something new, saying, ooh, that didn't get me to quite to where I wanted to go, so I'm going to try something else instead. Don't wait for somebody to tell you what to do. Don't wait for the answer to fall out of the sky. Just try it. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. If we created a culture that celebrated failure, it would probably be easier for us to learn from our mistakes. So maybe in your lab group, you can think about doing that. Celebrate failure, which sounds very scary. But let me give you an example. This example is in the hills of Vermont behind the Ben and Jerry's ice cream factory. They have a flavor graveyard for all the flavors they no longer make. Each flavor has a tombstone. Each tombstone has a limerick because they're celebrating their failures. They're saying for everybody to know, we tried, it wasn't so good, we lost a lot of money on this one, or whatever it was, and we moved on. They gave it a date, born, died, done. And it's just so fun. So rest in peace, peanut butter me up. Frankly, I never heard of this flavor. I didn't know it existed. It was only alive for 1 year, 2002 to 2003. But the limerick says, since PB me up went under, nobody seems to miss it, which is why it's in this graveyard, which everyone loves to visit. So isn't that lovely? You can celebrate a mistake and move on. And I don't want to say, I hope that's what you do, because I don't want to hope you make a lot of mistakes. But if you make a mistake, I hope you move on and learn from it. My fifth and last tip is to make a difference. There's all sorts of ways you can make a difference at every level and scale. You can improve the University of Florida right here. It may be as simple as saying, hey, there's potholes in that bike lane and somebody should fix them. You can figure out who to send that message to and they can fix them. You can think about how to improve the university in a more profound way. We were born in a history of white privilege. I am sure there are ways we aren't doing as well as we could. Now is the right time. People are thinking about how we should make the university a better place in all sorts of ways. And it may take new eyes experiencing these things to help teach us what we need to do to make a difference. You can help us with that. You might have to be strategic and think about how to say what you need to say, but that's good training too. You can contribute to your field. I've already mentioned how you can be involved in a professional association, and the work that you're doing can help move the field forward. Being involved in a professional association also means you get to know the other people in your profession, which is only helpful as you move on to get a job and do whatever you want to do. The research questions that you choose to ask and answer can help create change. Most people come up with their research question because they recognize a problem that they want to fix. And so that's making change, that's making a difference, and that's perfect. But we're also in the middle of 3 global, giant natural experiments. And if your research wants to tackle climate change or COVID-19 or racial injustice, those are 3 things that are experienced everywhere in the world. Every nation has the same 3 problems, and you could make an enormous impact, a very helpful difference, if that's where your research and your interests try to go. So, more power to you. In summary, that's it. You're going to think about what you want, you're going to make a plan, you're going to create the connections to help you achieve your plan through building skills, through getting experiences. You can take advantage of all the tremendous resources we have here at the University of Florida because they're here for you. You can improve a good thing either at the university, in your profession, or around the world. And you can do so by getting better at writing. Everybody can improve their writing. It's a huge skill to be able to have to go forward into whatever career you're aiming for. So thank you very much. I hope those tips are helpful, and I'll send it back to either Dr. Duncan or Matt when I stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. This is excellent. Um, I know we've sort of met our limit of time, but I know that there have been a few questions that have come up. So I wanted to make sure that we did have some time to answer questions. It looks like one came in the Q&A box for you, Dr. Monroe, about the graduate school experience, if you want to take a look at that one.
Oh my, what was my favorite experience in graduate school, and what would I do differently if I had to do it over again? Oh, I'm sure there's many things, but I can tell you the first thing that came to my mind, and that is not something you'll be able to do right away. I entered my particular program with about 20 other PhD students, and some of us got together every now and then to have a beer on Friday afternoon. And that was just lovely. We relaxed, we got to know each other, we could complain about the faculty, which I don't encourage you to do at all. Um, and those are people that I'm still in touch with. Those are the people we send Christmas cards, we send emails every now and then, and it was great. So I know that in our unit, our graduate students have started a happy hour on Friday. And if you can either create one or join one and get to know the other graduate students in your program, they'll be friends for life. They're just good people out there. They care about what you do, and they want to. They're in your same shoes. You want to get to know them. What would I do differently? Um, Probably spend more time drinking beer on Friday afternoon. I was rather driven, and yeah, I wanted to get out in the world and do things, which is okay too. You should want to graduate and do things. But graduate school is just a fantastic opportunity, and the more you can savor your time here, it's not a bad thing. Was there anything else I should address, Matt?
It looks like that was the one question that came in, but I think that was a great answer, and a great way to sort of wrap up how to look forward, knowing that engaging with people and finding ways to engage is going to be an ongoing process that in our current circumstances will take time to find ways to do it in a variety of formats. So since I don't see any other questions, I do want to say thank you to Dr. Monroe and Dr. Duncan for your kind words and wisdom this morning. Thank you all for joining this morning. And we do have other orientation activities coming up throughout the week. I see a question about Zoom meetings. We will post any of the sessions that we've recorded on our Grad Start Canvas page. So the sessions this morning will be posted later today in Grad Start. And if we need to follow up at all, certainly feel free to reach out to the graduate school and we'd be happy to connect. Thank you all, and good luck on your first semester. Take care.